Today, we're going to cover a story that the MSM does not want you to hear about. They do not want you to know about. The story is about the AWAN brothers. They had higher level security than Seth Rich had, actually. They were the IT directors for the Democrats, for Deborah Wasserman Schultz, and for the entire Democrat Congress. In that capacity, they had access to all of the emails sent to and from Congress. This should be a headline story. We always talk about collusion. We always talk about foreign influence in the fake news media. They're always talking about what are these foreign governments trying to do. Well, there were actually two people with the highest level privileges and access to every email. They were the AWAN brothers. Major national security threat, major terrorist threat. They had connections to terrorist organizations. The Democrats are trying to obstruct justice and trying to shut it down. So we have brought on a special guest today, George Webb, who has been following this story very closely. So George, I'll just say hello to you and then let you kind of talk about the AWAN brothers story and tell us what you've been finding.
Sure. Well, it's like Woodward and Bernstein now with the so I'm George Webb and this is Jason Goodman of Crowdsource The Truth. So you got both of us, 2 for 1, Mike.
Right.
So the AWAN brothers is a simple story. It's basically Debbie Wasserman Schultz running a spy ring in Congress. Now, the interesting reporting that we do with going out on the internet is we get people to search with us and for us, and then I am kind of a stenographer and push it back the intelligence out to people for more detailed searches. So we just kind of go down in a level. You know, we start at 30,000 feet, we bring it in for a landing on every topic. Crowdsource The Truth is a discussion area where we discuss those and we weigh the kind of like weighing the evidence sort of thing. So everything we take in, we go through a vetting process and on Crowdsource The Truth. And I'm out there basically collecting, and Jason's running the New York studio here in Chelsea. And the things that we found beyond these Daily Caller story, Luke Rosiak's done great reporting on these 4, well, there's going to be 6 in total AWANs, if you count wives. And
okay, so let me interrupt you for a second, my good friend. When you say Deborah Wasserman, we need to take a big step back. When you say Deborah Wasserman Schultz was running a spy ring in Congress, that is not the kind of thing we just say and then move on. That is a nuclear, direct truth bomb, if it is true. So let's go back to what you initially said. You claimed that Deborah Wasserman Schultz was running a spy ring in Congress. So what evidence do we have to support that?
Well, our best evidence comes from James Comey himself, saying that the mechanism that how it's done is with a BlackBerry syncing to a laptop. And this is how Huma got her emails to Anthony Weiner's laptop. So all they did is just reproduce that for, let's say, about 80 to 150 members of Congress, and we don't really know how many. Now, the other part of this that people are going to find maybe either funny or surprising is Anthony Weiner played that role with the AWAN brothers before Debbie Wasserman took over that role. And everyone thinks of Anthony Weiner as kind of this guy with a problem, but he's actually running that spy ring before Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Well, I believe that to be true, but what evidence do we have, I guess, would be my claim. So there's a lot of people, keep in mind, when we say the AWAN brothers, as you know, if Trump tweets a typo on Twitter, that is on every cable news station in the world. But there are a lot of people watching and listening are saying, well, wait a minute, I've never heard of the AWAN brothers. What is that even about? Okay,
so there are 6 people that are employed in the Congress, all making $160,000 or in that neighborhood, which is right at the top end of Congress. You can go to Inside Gov right now and look up, search for the name AWAN, and you'll see the 6 names. Now, 2 of them are wives, so that it's Hina Alvi, A-L-V-I, or you can look up Natalia Sova, S-O-V-A. Okay. Now, the True Pundit has reported the burglaries that the AWAN brothers did, the 20 different burglaries they did. And the New York Post has also reported on this, as well as I mentioned Wayne Rosiak at the Daily Caller. Marita Bartoloma at Fox had this. Varney had it. Let's see, a couple of the Dobbs, I think, had it. what we've done is basically gone forward from there with in-depth searches and found out different companies they work for in Congress. I've developed sources in the Congress. I know you're a White House correspondent now, Mike, so congratulations on that. And so I have I'm not going to say a mole in Congress, but I've been given a lot of information that Imran worked for a company called Inter-American. The CIA wing there is Enter America, but I'll cover that later with my audience. But basically through visas and passports, getting these foreign nationals into Congress in a kind of a quasi-congressional role, and then moving them into being House staffers. And these are guys nobody ever sees in Congress. I was all on Capitol Hill about last, Jason and I were there at least 7 days talking to everybody. Jason had an ambush interview with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She didn't know who the AWAN brothers was.
Oh, apparently not. She didn't have much to say about it.
Yeah.
But, you know, the other thing that, Mike, you're asking about evidence, I think certainly Debbie Wasserman Schultz's own behavior is an indicator that this is a serious issue. We saw in the news, in her own words, there's video of her threatening the chief of the Capitol Police to return what is evidence in a criminal investigation, multiple laptops that were stolen from various congressional offices.
And Blackberries.
And Blackberries.
Now, I believe that if people haven't seen the video of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, there it is, threatening the Verderosa, who's the Capitol Police down there on D Street. She goes right into it. She threatens his budget 3 times because she sits on the committee that funds his budget. And then you have her at the end saying there will be consequences. But if that wasn't enough, she just had the chief administrative officer come, the 3 guys that gave the AWANs their top secret clearance or their clearances and gave them their IT credentials. And you can watch that video of her blaming them. Now, she's the person who gave Imran Awan her laptop and her password. And this isn't just email going back and forth. These are people that sit on some of the most sensitive committees in the Congress. House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, DHS, and Foreign Affairs, like Andre Carson, Becerra, Jackie Spear, Swalwell, who we saw in the hall and had a small army around him. We went to Devin Nunes's office to try to promote this. So we were trying to get, you could just feel it. You could feel it that this story was about ready to break. I have mountains of evidence, 700 videos out there if people want to look at all the evidence.
Yeah, and those are on the George Webb YouTube channel, which is essentially sort of like a raw intelligence feed every day.
It's kind of like what an editor would see coming back from a reporter coming back in from the field. And then Jason, kind of on Crowdsource the Truth, we talk about the evidence. For instance, we got a thumb drive that may have been Seth Rich's thumb drive.
Well, we should.
I said may. I used big capital letters, may. But it was from Bernie people up in Boston that worked with the NGP van software that Seth worked for. We've talked to experts in Australia who say that, yes, during backups, I could go look at Bernie data and Bernie could go look at my data. They even accused Bernie of looking at their data in December of 2015. He confirmed that during the backup process, and the process had control of all the files, that this data was swipeable, I guess, or hackable.
It was visible to all users.
And Seth Rich was pissed. I mean, that's the bottom line.
You know, and just to clarify, Mike, this is not George making these claims. DC Capitol Police consider the AWAN brothers suspects in burglaries and hacking of the House of Representatives. And we've spoken to experts. We just earlier this week, George and I went and did what I can really only categorize as sort of like an intelligence assessment with Dr. Corsi, all about how this NGP van system works. And what it is it's a database that's essentially a continuous accumulation of data from the time it was installed up until today. So when we say that the data dump that we just released last night on various Google Drive accounts that have already been taken down, not by us, but someone who has access to our Google Drive accounts, you know, that NGP van system would contain data that would have been leaked by Seth Rich and additional data since then, because it just keeps adding more and more data to it. And what we do with Crowdsource the Truth is we push George's raw intelligence out to the open source community, and we are already getting back some incredible assessments from IT people, people with legal experience, doctors. It has proven to be an incredibly powerful method.
In analyzing the intelligence, for instance, that Jason did with Rod Wheeler, we had him for a photo shoot, and both of us interviewed him. We went through an intelligence assessment of every piece of evidence, and we really came up with only 2 pieces of evidence that we know for sure. We push all the testimony of humans aside, and we start with the metadata. What are the 2 facts? It's the same thing that Kim.com tweeted about, and he put part of the file name out there. One is the FBI confiscated Cernovich's phone. The other one is they confiscated his laptop. Now, the third bombshell that Rod dropped on us was there may be an FBI bullet, and that would have gone into a secure evidence bag as well. And the fourth thing that came from our law enforcement community is there's no way that story with the gun, getting the long gun out of the FBI car, there's no way it can possibly be true because there's an electronic tumbler. You have to hit a switch to enact the tumbler to get the long rifle out. The gun is usually going to be on the hip of the FBI agent. And then the secure phone, all DC communications and Capitol Police communications are encrypted. The encrypted phone is going to be in a secure lockbox as well with the trip that you have to know how to press. You have to know. So this idea that somehow this, somebody got into the FBI car and that's how they shot Cernovich is really quite a stretch. Again, metadata. We focus on the metadata.
Yeah, the Cernovich thing is definitely a different conversation for another day. I want to talk. Yeah, the AWAN brothers, I think, is a massive story because right now the fake news media is going into overdrive to get everybody to quit talking about it. I'm going to read you a quote from the Newsweek right now. So Newsweek just published an article. The far right's fake news story of the week was hijacked by the tragic death of Baranthon Wisenet. So they're trying to say in Newsweek and other fake news outlets that the AWAN brothers is not a real story. And yet in this very article, they admit that the AWAN brothers stole data, but what they're trying to say is, here, I'll read the paragraph. Among those who were the victims of the AWAN brothers' data theft was Wasserman Schultz, the former DC head. There was as many as 80 members may have been targets of the AWANs, who are now the subjects of a criminal probe. So what fascinates me about that paragraph is, if Wasserman Schultz is a crime victim, why did she tell the Capitol Police that she was going to defund them and get people fired if they investigated the crime? So what would your reaction to be to the fake news narrative that Deborah Wasserman Schultz was actually a victim of the AWAN brothers? We were just talking to George Webb and I believe John Goodman about the AWAN brothers. So that's what I find fascinating is that's how you know that you're over the target. Right now in Newsweek, they're literally trying to claim that the AWAN brothers story is a fake news story. Okay, so you guys are back, so react to that.
Like Debbie Wasserman Schultz's own behavior is the real indicator right there. How can someone threaten the police to give back evidence in a criminal investigation?
So my direct reporting is I went to D.C., I knocked on the 12 homes associated with Imran Awan. The last home I went to was in Lorton, Virginia, 9667 Hawkshead Drive. I knock on the door, a Marine answers the door. I say, you know Imran Awan? He says, no. Well, he says yes, but he didn't say his name was Imran Awan. He said his name was Alex. I said, is he the person who rented you the home? Yes. He rented it through my wife, Hina Albi. Now, both of them have fled to Pakistan, according to news reports. But then I said, is there anything strange you noticed in the house? And he said, yes. There was a pile of BlackBerries, and there was 3 or 4 laptops. And I said, well, there's anything interesting about those laptops, or is he just collect BlackBerries? He goes, yeah, they had state markings. They had markings, U.S. government asset tag markings. And in later videos, I show what a congressional marking looks like. And he said that He called the police. He called the FBI. The FBI came over and got the Blackberries and came over and got the laptops. Now, he's out of the Marines now, but his wife still works. His name's Andre Taggart. If anybody wants, it's again on my channel, Taggart. His wife's in the Navy, so NCIS, which is the investigative body of the Office of Naval Intelligence, came over and interviewed his wife because they were concerned that maybe she had stolen these Blackberries, these congressional Blackberries and laptops. Okay, so again, not me, Andre Taggart. I was in conversation all that night with Luke Rosiak, so I have the text to prove it. And so the third thing he said was it's been relegated to the Capitol Police, and the Capitol Police have those laptops and have those Blackberries. Now, Debbie Wasserman Schultz keeps proving my case for me. She keeps calling these people on the carpet and blaming them for something she did. And I almost want to go watch her because she's going to prove it for me.
Yeah, she's really the one who's giving all the evidence. You know, the other thing that's worth mentioning, Mike, it's not Jason and George who are saying this stuff. The AWAN brothers' own stepmother filed a police report in which she accused them of threatening her with kidnapping her relatives in Pakistan, and they hacked her cell phone. This is all coming from her, not us. That's
she's
in the
Pakistani, so this is an anti-Pakistani thing or an anti-Muslim thing at all. I have fought for Muslim civil rights in the past against Andrew McCabe, the current director of the FBI. If you look at the Portland Christmas tree bomber case, so let's just put the anti-Muslim thing aside. We had an Albanian Muslim come up to us on the street when we went over to report on David Petraeus speaking at the 92nd Street Y, and he said, "I want to get my picture with you." So.
All right, well, thanks, guys, for having you on. We might be able to carry it over to the next segment.
Okay.
But we're about to go on break. That was a great 18-minute primer into the AWAN brothers. As those of you listening get the vibe, this is a huge story. The fake news media does not want you to know about it, so we'll come back after the break. Our final segment, twitter.com/CERNOVICH. Before we go into there, I thought it would be good to talk about how we pulled out of the Paris Accord and how that relates to sunscreen. Now, a lot of you are going to say, well, wait, this doesn't make any sense. I'll tell you why. Right now, there's a very new, powerful sunscreen by Infowars that has zinc oxide. Well, the zinc oxide stuff, it really is the truth, and I'm glad Alex finally has that because now I can buy my sunscreen from him rather than some, corporation. But the final segment, we just have a couple more minutes, and the AWAN brothers story is so important that we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but there's a paragraph I wanted to read out of Newsweek. So Newsweek is calling the AWAN brothers fake news. But even in their article criticizing us, there's a line there. They go, Wasserman Schultz, for some reason, retained AWAN in an advisory capacity, even after the Capitol Police investigation and the AWAN family seemed to be ramping up. Whoa. Hold on a second. If the AWAN brothers story is fake news and there's nothing to see here, and Deborah Wasserman Schultz is just a poor, helpless crime victim, why was she paying money to criminal suspects? Why is she trying to shut down the investigation? The fake news media, they're really running scared here. They don't want you to know this story. So make sure when this video goes on the Alex Jones YouTube channel, clip it, snip it, put it in your social media, put it all over, share these articles, blast them out, because that's why they want to shut us down. Newsweek is literally calling it fake news, even though there's a criminal investigation. And even though Wasserman Schultz paid criminals after they were being investigated for sharing top secret emails to Islamic terrorist groups. So we got just 90 seconds. George Webb, Jason Goodman, what is your final parting shot to the truth warriors at home who really want to know what is going on?
Well, really, it's leveraging more media, and thank you, Mike, for this opportunity. We send everything, and I have been sending things to WikiLeaks for a long time. I'm TruthLeaks on Twitter, and even before the WikiLeaks network and the WikiLeaks founders all died, the top three, I was involved in getting them information with thumb drives. So this thumb drive thing isn't new. And the AWAN brothers in Washington, D.C. are not new. Go back to Inter-America, and I can't remember Juan Gutierrez. And he says right in the article, we provide people from other countries to come into the U.S. This is an old story, to do the laptops and BlackBerries. So,
Mike, we're developing a bunch of other stories about how they got their visas and things that tie the AWAN brothers to potential hacking of the NGP van system, the voter database. So there's not any shortage of evidence, and there's a lot more to come out of this story.
Thanks so much. We will definitely be covering this more. Thanks for coming, guys. Everybody, thank you for listening. Mike Cernovich.